What's the day about? Well, for me, it's an opportunity because generally any sort of BIM convention is over 6 people. It is the law that I'm here to talk about the government BIM message. But actually today, if anything, I want to talk more and more actually about collaborative digital working. Not really to talk about BIM. I think sometimes BIM, the word, a bit of a red herring. It's very much about talking about collaborative working and how these digital tool sets can help us better enable a better way of working for you in terms of your sector. So we're going on a bit of a journey. And I think the first thing I'd like to say is actually we're probably the most exciting time to be part of this construction, our built environment. It's changing very, very rapidly, and it's changing globally. I'm just back from Estonia. We're out in Tallinn speaking to all the members out there in terms of how their industry is changing, how it's starting to reshape. So when we talk about BIM, I always think it's part of a bigger message, a bigger picture. Our industry is changing. We are starting to move out of the foothills, if you like, of moving from an analog economy to a construction economy that's very digital, it's very global, and we'll start to transact more and more in this digital economy. So I think really exciting times. And BIM, if you like, is a bit of a trainer to start thinking about how we're going to transact very much in a digital way. So it's a big key part of what we're doing. So it's very much part, and think about it in terms of your own sector, in terms of fit out, and in terms of your own business. The reality is the UK suffers from low productivity in terms of the waste we've got, in terms of when we're briefing something, designing it, procuring it, constructing it, and indeed a big part of it in terms of operational life cycle. So a big part of the message is BIM is very much there to make sure we can be much more efficient. So start to think in the context of build twice. Start to think in terms of building, simulating, optimizing what you do in the world of the computer, that sandpit, and how you can optimize. Start to think how you can build flawlessly out on your job sites. What we're seeing BIM doing, if you like, it's an enabler. It's starting to enable things, especially, I think, new products in terms of what we're doing in a built environment. Design for manufacturing, assembly, lean. BIM is a great enabler of them. And I think what we are seeing is new ways of working, starting to redefine the products throughout the world. This is in China, starting to think more and more about the kits and parts, chassis design, objects that come out of factories. Well, what does that mean? I think in the UK we'll start to see, in terms of its digital way of working, we'll start to see, if you like, creating less Morgans, and probably more, if you like, of Nissans, more factory-based products. And I think that's a key thing we'll start to see as we go forward. We're starting to see around the world complete new paradigms, 20, 30% savings. This is what clients want. So very much new ways of working, and BIM's there as a catalyst to start helping that happen. So please don't think about BIM in isolation, but think of it starting to bring together lean working, design for manufacturing assembly, lots of different ways. And I think that's key. 30 stories, 15 days. And I think that's quite incredible in terms of what they can do in terms of thinking about factory base, thinking about objects, thinking more and more about standard design. This is very much a new way of working, and I think that's key. So please don't think about BIM in isolation. What we are seeing is the built environment entering that digital revolution. And in terms of fit out, you certainly won't be exempt from it. It's axiomatic that you'll get value for it, you'll get clients that are asking for it as well. So this is not the future, this is very much the here and now. So please start on that journey. And for you in terms of members, you know, is it an unexpected journey that you're going to go down this route? Well, I think the first thing is actually, it's not mythical. It should be, I think, to some degree, relatively simple. Start having a look at it, start thinking about the processes, the technologies, and the culture that surrounds it. It shouldn't be this mythical journey that goes down. So actually, what does this look like? We've done a lot of work with Robert and the team at the NAS in terms of what they think. We've heard a lot of their issues and where they think the value is from BIM. And I think this is kind of the story. I was trying to put this together last night, and you think, gosh, is it cliched that, you know, you've got the sort of builder there with the saw and the hammer? Well, there's that, and I was trying to get some clip art in the airport in Tallinn last night. But actually, the key thing is, how do you get BIM to the coalface? The person that's swinging the hammer and sawing. We've got to make sure that we take BIM out of the design offices and make sure we get productivity at the coalface. But hopefully, you've started in journey plan number 1. I think that's hopefully what this morning's been about. What the heck is it? And why do I care? Is there value in terms of what you do in terms of your business? And I generally hope the message that came out there's better productivity for you in it. The first thing should be inwardly facing. Actually, this is going to give you added value and value to your clients as well. It should bring value to your customers. No matter what, it should reduce risk as well. And I think that's one of the big things we see, that BIM does help reduce risk in terms of collaboration and communication. It's a fantastic tool. So I think the key things that should have come out this morning is faster, better, and indeed safer. And indeed, there's a bit that overwraps it as well in terms of carbon and sustainability. I think that's a key part as well. So hopefully, nod if you think that's the case. Did that come out this morning? Excellent. So I think I've got about 50% nods. So yeah, so this morning's been worthwhile. And at the same time, you've got government that's asking for it. Okay, all central government projects by 2016 will be level 2 BIM enabled, irrespective of the project value. So in terms of scalability, that could be a fit-out job for the MOJ. It could right up to a major job in terms of infrastructure. But in terms of government, we see that value proposition being completely scalable. And that's not just new build. It's very much in terms of retained estate, refurbishment, heritage-type works. Indeed, often the case is there's probably more value when we start going to look at these workflows and opportunities as well. This, is, for me, is a stepping stone, but it shouldn't be just about government. It should be the value to you as a member as well. But this will affect industry. This is a whole sector approach. And whilst you might not be giving, if you like, information direct to a government department, at some point in supply chain, you will no doubt be transacting with someone that is giving information in a structured way. So hopefully the message that's came out in terms of what can BIM be used for in terms of fit out. Virtual design, start to think more rapidly as a communication tool. People can get round about it and make smarter outcomes. BIM should always be outcome based. There should always be a purpose for doing it. It should add value and it should support a better outcome for you and for your customers. And I think that's a big thing. It becomes a great opportunity to start. It's got common understanding. So the 3D modeling, to some degree, is important. It is great as a communication tool that's there as well. Rapid clash detection, well, people see it as being the low-hanging fruit. Actually, what we're seeing is it's starting to affect commercial models. People are starting to initially work in generic spaces, coordinating them, but the only way we can start to do coordination properly is to start switching on the specialist contractors earlier on in supply chain. So it's very much starting to affect procurement routes and people like yourself starting to bring you into the process that much earlier. So it is starting to create a behavioural change. Well, what does it let you do as well? You can start to evaluate things. So you're starting to simulate, but start to think optimization as well. What's the best way for me to build it, construct it, maintain it? Key things in that modern environment that should come out, and that's the key thing, is optimization. Starting to validate your programs and start to turn it into something that's going to have value to your client. Starting to think about plain language questions. Is this the optimum sequence I can build in? Again, using that modern environment to make that happen. I'm sure a big part of what you do is the world of scheduling and quantity takeoff, and the ability within that model is to start to optimate that workflow as well, which is very much key. So you're using quality information and very rapidly start to think about optimization as well. And I think one of the big things, one of the big wins for yourself, is the fact that you can start to link this up to your CNC machines. You can start to produce direct from the model. So a key thing as well in terms of the value proposition. And again, don't think of BIM in isolation. You saw the great work that Charlie and that's doing in terms of outside the laser scanners, the survey tools, the fact that we can start to bring these workflows together, start to look at existing conditions. I'm sure a lot of the work you do is coming into retained buildings, and it starts to paint a more accurate picture, make well-informed decisions of what's out there. And also conversely, you can set out from that model environment as well. So perfect accuracy, speed in terms of setting out. And I wish I had this 20 years ago when I was the world's worst setting out engineer with my Canacola and my speed line. So there's a huge value in terms of use propositions as well. And you've heard Roy Evans talking about today, soft landings. A big part of this is the non-graphical data. The fact that we can put data into the FM world as well, into the CAFM systems, computer-assisted facilities model. We don't have to change the data structure. We can push it right the way through, so bringing added value to the clients as well. So managing and maintaining a big, big part, not just of buildings, but infrastructure as well. So mythical part of the journey, well, where's the second step? So you can see there's some value in it, but what about the tools? We often hear this VHS or beta, but start thinking, where are the tools going to bring you value? And actually often what you'll see is that the tools you may need, they might be free. There's a lot of good free viewers out there. There's a lot of good free apps out there in terms of simple 3D modeling. There's clash detection tools out there. Have a look and only look at the tools that are going to bring your business some degree of benefit. And start thinking, you'll probably find you're probably on your journey already. So start having a look where you are now. Where's your point of departure? And start looking at your business processes. Which processes, if you put some disruptive change to, are going to give you the maximum value? Don't think about a whole sector approach to BIM, but think very much which ones are going to give me that value. And start thinking who's going to lead from you as well. Start thinking who's going to be the BIM champion with your business to help coordinating and try and look at that cultural change as well, which is so key to what we're doing. So you've done that. Well, what's the next part? There's mobilization. You might have to implement some new technologies. Think about training. Training is a big part of this, not just in the tool set, but also processes as well. And do some reading. I think one of the things we suffer from in the UK is we don't read enough. We've got all these wonderful documents out there on the BIM Task Group website. China, Russia are amongst our fastest downloads. So who's read the government construction strategy? Hands up. Okay, that's better than normal. So I think we've maybe got 10 people out. How many folk we got here, David? 140. 110. So again, have a read. We've got all these things that are there. They're free. Download them. Take the time to read them. The reality is, others out there in other countries are. So if we're not ready, there's plenty of others that will be. So make sure we're right. But probably the big part is build the right collaborative culture. If anything that comes out today, this is very much about collaboration. It's about people. This is very much about a cultural change with the tool sets to help enable better ways of working. And now you've kind of done that, and you'll start to get there, ready, steady, go. I think you remember this, Robert, do you? Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah, I thought you would. So start to think about learn by doing. Start learning, refining, optimizing, and do it one workflow at a time. Learn from it, refine it, and then start to roll it out for your organization. And accept failure. There is likely to be some failure. The first time you do it, it's not probably going to be 100% right. Keep refining it, stick with it, measure it, and ultimately get rid of it. I think one of the big things we say is let's try and get rid of BIM. Make it business as usual. It shouldn't be some bolt-on. It should be part of everyday working process. So it shouldn't be a bolt-on. So think how you inject it within your organization. And once you've done that, you reach this nirvana, if you like, of BIM enlightenment. Better outcomes. So again, if we get one message today, it's think, how do you get a better outcome through doing this thing called BIM? So always outcome-based. If you're a client, you don't want a nice, new, shiny model, a better model. You want a better outcome. So think about outcomes all the time in terms of doing BIM. So actually, what is it? Building, is it a verb or a noun? Well, actually, who cares? It's what you can actually do with it. But it's about consistent, collaborative industry. It's an industry change, but it's very much there to give you clear, open communication. The I, probably the most important part of this, is information, and it should be high quality. Information that's been tested, verified, but again, supports business outcomes. Your outcomes and your clients as well. Get to know your client and what outcomes they want as well. Modeling, horrible word, but it's more about modeling and management. Start to think about how we increase efficiency enabled by simulations and analysis. So get some idea. Actually, BIM is going to mean many, many different things to you, depending on what you do. If you're a manufacturer, if you fit out, and start to think, what does it actually mean to you and your organization? But always think about the outcomes more than anything. But it should support a better way of working. So again, you might not work right the way through that entire asset life cycle, through operations, but still, give thought about it. Think how you give added value to your client. And I think this is what I love to see when I come into your offices on a Thursday. Thursday is always a good day. It gives you a Friday to get everything right. But you start to use the model environment. You get it up on a screen. It might be a projector. It might be some other way. But get it up. Share it with the right people. The people that are going to be building the project, removing the constraints and such like from it. So get the right people around about it. A mixture of tools there. Your 3D graphical model. It might be your 2D program that's there, your cost. But bringing these all together to make smart decisions. Can I actually build that next week? What's the optimum way to do it? Can I do it safely? Unless you create that environment, you're not going to get much value. So getting the right people round about the model is key. And I think that's one of the key things we want to see happening. So what actually is it? Well, in the UK, we've probably got about 4 definitions of what BIM is. Level 0, I'm sure everybody's kind of gone past that now. The unmanaged CAD, the 2D workflows, paper or the electronic ink. We'll move to the world of managed CAD in terms of the 2D and also 3D geometry. And I think we start to put the first building block in there. And BIM should always start in the analog world. It should start with good design management and good procurement. So forget about the digital part for a minute. Ask yourself, are you doing good design management, BS 7000 or other things? Do you get procurement? Are you doing procurement the best way? Do you understand your plan of work? And then start thinking about moving on to level 2, the object-oriented modeling and library management. And that's essentially what it is. It's underpinned by the good analog stuff, but we're thinking more and more about how we start to manage things with there as well. And then we've got this thing called level 3. So if we move level 2, think about it as collaboration, lots of separate models. Level 3 is integration with some one big mega model. The reality is nobody knows. So if anybody tells you they're doing level 3, they are probably lying to you, because as a task group, we're scoping it out actually what it means and where the value is. So generally where we think the UK is probably somewhere between level 1 and level 2. We're starting to get there, if you like, training people to make consistent data transactions. And any BIM presentation, again, is the law that you show the site. So anybody playing BIM bingo here today? I see a few folks, so I had to go in. But essentially, it shows this level of maturity, maybe 20, 24 years to get, if you like, from paper to CAD. And in terms of the BIM task group, we've got 4 years to take government to level 2. And we've got that red line between now and over here to the world, if you like, of integration. And I think that's the game changer. That is the real digital economy that changes everything. So again, getting up to that red line is pretty much industry and training. Once we get to level 3, I think the whole BIM equation kind of goes. It's such a fundamental change in the way we work. And this is essentially level 2, series of domain models. So you've still got an architectural model, a structural model, an FM model, a contractor sometimes. So legally, probably not a lot has changed. The forms of contract that surround level 2 BIM largely still support it. But it's about sharing, collaboration of data, or the term federation, that we can do lots of things with. What's said, we can coordinate, we can simulate it. Again, you can see a basic one, bringing some models together. But this is probably one of the key documents we said we mentioned about process. PAS 1192. It went out at the beginning of this year. And again, PAS, which means that there has been consultation with it. It'll live, if you like, as a developing document for at least a year to get people's feedback from industry before it becomes a full British standard. But I think one of the key things that actually all project information, whether BIM or not, should be managed in a common data environment. So start to think, forget about BIM again. Are you actually managing your data in a common data environment? Do you check it in and out? Is there a validation process in your design, your procurement, as you go through as well? So a key concept, the common data environment. Now, what is key about this document? It's probably the only one that actually sets out what level 2 BIM actually is in a bit of detail. I know you can't read it, but right at the top, enabling tools. So lots of tools. We've got different levels of interoperability, i.e. how you can share the data to make this work. So level 2, lots of tools, no one single tool. It's a series of standards that come together. As we mentioned, the designs, PAS 1192, 2007, Common Data Environment, all start to come together to give you level 2 BIM. There's a series of documents that actually support it as well, a protocol and such like. Have a look at these. You can download this document. It is free of charge. It's on the task group website. So there's a series of things, including government soft landings, that come together to bring about this thing called level 2 BIM. So please, if you're going to read one document, forget about the government construction strategy, read this one. I think it is a real valuable document. As I said, many others out there are actually reading it. And you'll see in terms of level 2 process and deliverables, the first thing we said is we've got processes out there to create a common data environment, how we share the information. We've got the non-graphical data, so a structured schema in terms of government. It's called COBE, the Construction Operation Building Information Exchange. Forget about all that. It's a structured way of exchanging data, non-graphical data, and it can be Excel, many ways of achieving it, and many ways for government to actually use it. And again, it's training, starting to think about consistent data exchanges. And unfortunately, we still need these 2D PDFs for contractual point of view and for building regulations as well that have been cut from the models. And we've got the big part, I think this is an important part, the commercial suite. We're starting to think about how we synchromesh BIM into the contract hierarchy. So these information exchanges become part of the contract. So again, get your commercial team to have a look, make sure they've got a level of comfort with these details, such as the BIM protocol. They're very much part of the BIM process. And the bit that we all love so much, these lovely 3D native formats, because they look pretty nice. And again, they've got a huge value in terms of communication and coordination. So key one, have a look at BS 1192 2007, and you can start to see the process for sharing data, work in progress. So not a BIM workflow, but anything you do, have a look. That's pretty much a bedrock toolkit, I think. And then you've got the wonderful world, and this is, to me, is really level 2 BIM. If you hover, so that's coming in today, maybe at 30,000 feet, this is what it kind of looks like. It's a 360-degree process. It encompasses the entire asset life cycle, but it starts very much with the end in mind. What do you actually want to achieve through doing BIM? Starting to articulate that in a series of requirements. And how do we do requirements? Well, this probably articulates, I know it's a rather busy slide, but I'm going to try and unpack it in a nice, unsimple way. It starts at the top with like a plan of work. Now, a plan of work can mean many different things. It can be the REBA plan of work, the 0 to 7, but probably the easiest way to explain it is I'm going to start a diet next week using the level 2 BIM process. And the way I'm doing it, you think it probably doesn't need to lose any weight, and it's true, but I'm going to take the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as my typical day. I get up, I have breakfast, I might have a mid-morning snack, a bit of lobster or caviar as I do, right through the day. So I have a series of I have my plan of work or my daily eating routine. So I'm then going to have, off the back of that, a series of what I call plain language questions. Actually, am I hungry? Do I need a bit of energy? I'm going to be eating again at some point today. I'm going to have a series of questions that underpin it. Now, I need some data that sits there as well. So I've got information that I want, and that's maybe the calories inside of the can of beans or such like, or my lobster or my champagne. And I'm going to exchange that. I'm going to use one of these digital watches that I can take the data from, how much exercise I have to do. Well, what does that mean? It means at each point, in terms of breakfast time, lunchtime, I can take data and I can start to make a smart decision on all that data that's out there. How much exercise have I done? How much calories am I likely to consume? I can make smart decisions. And I think that's the key point. You can start to see there, these green and red circles, information exchanges, when you start to use information to make a smart decision. And it's important that you can do that as well. So maybe it's for a tender submitted, you can ask the questions, are we affordable? Have we managed the risk profile? Do we have the data that backs it up? So start to think about how you transact upon data to make smart questions. In terms of government world, we use COBE and we use the geometrical models to answer questions for us. So that could be cost, it could be carbon, it could be area and accommodation, but we start to use data to make smart, well-informed decisions. And again, it starts off top right, end in mind, employers' information requirements, setting out plain language questions at the different stage as an employer. And it's set into 3 things. I won't go through it, but technical, managerial, and commercial, if you like, the software platforms, the standards, and in terms of the capability of the team as well. So they're set out. And again, they're linked to our plain language questions. If you go into the website, you'll see a series of questions at each of the different stages. It's set out as REBA that clients can pick. And it's linked to the BIM data. It might be in terms of geometrical data, it might be analysis, but we can start to answer questions. And you can see a bit of data down at the bottom. So investment decision, questions, using the data to answer some questions for you. You can start to see up at the top, you can see the decision points, the data transactions, i.e. the green footballs, and the information grows. If you've got to answer a more complex question, the information grows. So think of level of detail, level of development in terms of your graphical model, and level of information in terms of non-graphical, which could be things like warranty data, it could be no-name manuals that are backing that up as well. You can see the growth. It doesn't stop at handover because we continue to use our assets for maybe 30, 40, 50 years. And hopefully one of the things that came from Roy was starting to think, actually, learn from your assets, post-occupancy evaluation. And you can see there, this is the AIA, the American Institute of Architects, their level of detail. But I think the key thing is you can start to see the development in terms of an object, how much information. It often starts as a generic object, so that might be in terms of a bit of a carcass, or it might be a bed, it might be a wardrobe. It's quickly switched out for something from yourselves, something from the supply chain. And to do that, it means earlier engagement. So a key part, start to engage earlier with a specialist. You're probably not overly interested, but government actually does something with this data. You can see we transact upon it. We check it. Did we get the information we wanted? We might put it in a report to answer the plain language question, so the client gets a nice report. It's affordable. It eats my area target. We can build it within the timescale. Or as Roy's probably told you, we can push it to many other systems, such as the CAFM system. So a huge use, underpinned by COBE. Have a look at it. And again, it might just be Excel. If you so wished, you could actually type it all in. But again, key part of what we're doing. But some of the key things, not just 3D graphical information. Start to think how you tie things up in terms of all the systems you've got. This is Crossrail, all the systems they've got that they're trying to inject. It doesn't all live within the graphical model. The graphical model is there to help tie things together. So start to think there about how we can link our 3D models through a mapping system, classifications, to other documentation, or it might even be geospatial data. Where in heck actually is it? We've then built our asset, we've managed to actually transact upon it, we've answered our questions, and we now move in. And this is a key thing you might be interested in, the asset information model. And this might be a new market for you. Start to think more and more about helping a customer manage their asset for the next 30, 40, 50 years. Now this is a new document, PAS 1192, Part 3. It went out for consultation yesterday. So again, you can make your comment in this. And what this is, I think, one of the great things about this process, it's very much about government and industry working together. So any comments, please be part of that. Please make your representation in terms of what that looked like. So very quickly, level 2 BIM practically applied. You can start to see there it is a process. MOJ, plan of work, key decision points, and a series of questions that underpin it for a series of transactions. So this, if you like, was a generic model. Young Offenders Institute, it was 180 beds. Anybody stayed in one of these before? Probably more folk than actually have read the old, what you call it, government thing. But you can see there the model environment. Again, we can start to make decisions virtually in that. You bring the right people around about it, the plumbers, the fit-out people, they start to make decisions. They build it in maybe 3-4 times. Digital sandpit, they get it right. We optimize what we're doing. We also start to bring other flows, like you might want to give me a present after this, but we start to use more and more laser scanning as well. We're starting to reality capture. It might be a mock-up you do, and you bring it back into the model as well using laser scanning technology. Very quickly, this is the very first data drop. The question there, does this meet my outline business case? There's the geometry model, big, clunky, but answered the client's question. It looked at adjacencies, it looked at the key massing, and you can start seeing the right, we're building the basic COBE schema. This is our next data drop. We've passed it on then. We're looking before it goes out to tender. You can see the level of detail. We've now got some fit-out components. We've got desks. We've got beds in there. Not a lot of detail. They're generic objects, generic placeholders, that when we put it out to tender, the supply chain swaps a generic object out with something from their own suppliers. And it's got the cost, it's got the carbon, it's got all that data in. As a client, we can then start to transact upon it. We can validate it. We can make smart decisions. That project is about to close in November this year. And there's a client story, Emily Thomas. Key things that came out, I got better for less. Probably 20% savings will make. Not through BIM, but through a series of interventions, smarter procurement, soft landings, BIM, all together. She got improved visibility of process. You could understand it better, better communication, reduce the risk, improved efficiency right the way through that entire process. But the best part, better outcomes, certainty of outcomes because she was part of that process. And a large part of that was very much on fit out. Some of the screens were there. She could make smart client business outcome-based decisions. So last slide, we're starting to go beyond level 2. We're starting to think about level 3. And a big part of that is probably mentioned already, the industrial strategy. This is Peter Hansford, the Chief Construction Advisor, working with government, and probably 2 key things on the right-hand side. Faster delivery by 50%. Well, how do you do that? Of course, you can simulate and optimize a program, but actually the big part of that is procurement. Digital procurement will start to cut down that overall delivery key. So we are starting to move level 3 towards a digital economy, and start thinking if you're buying a book in Amazon, it kind of happens almost nanosecond. I know I bought one, I think it came from Italy, arrived a day later in some locker down in Hammersmith. I don't really care where it came from globally. So this will enable, if you like, it'll be a complete global, I think, construction economy. But we want to make sure that we get improvements in exports by 50%. Starting to make sure the UK is a leader. Be very much at the vanguard of this. I think we already are. We're pushing there. A lot of interesting comments are, but we want to be selling our skills, making sure you guys are out there competing globally, being at the vanguard of this new economy.